Perfect. This is James Lux, and I'm delighted to be joined with Gerry Cooney today. Gerry, how are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be on YouTube today. I got a kitchen my wife and I have been having done for the last 4.5 months. It's finally getting there, and life is good. I'm on the radio. I got that radio face now. Can you tell? And I'm on a couple of days, 2 hours a day. It feels great. So I'm in the game. I'm watching the fights. Doing some color with Tommy Loeffler, and so it's pretty cool. I train people. I train 8 to 10 people. And so I'm in the game. I love the game. Back when I was fighting, I think life was going so fast for me. I couldn't really appreciate how good my trainer was.
Mm.
But since I'm out of it, now I understand all the things he taught me, and I'm able to teach that going forward. I work with kids that are at-risk kids, troubled kids, and I teach them that through boxing, you can build self-esteem, confidence, courage. You don't have to fight anymore, and you can find what your goal is, what your dreams are. And that's a beautiful thing. I never had that growing up.
Just want to touch on that, Gerry. You mentioned obviously, you seem very happy. You're pleased to still be within the sport. When you did hang up the gloves from your fighting days, did you always feel like you still had to be within the sport? Is it hard to walk away from boxing?
No, you have to walk away from boxing because boxing in some ways most likely screws you somewhere. All these guys, they get screwed at the end of the story. It's not a happy ending. You turn the page and go on to life. It's a lot of struggle, a lot of fear, a lot of loneliness, emptiness, and you know, it takes a while. Fortunately for me, I had a great wife. Well, I have a great wife who saw this foundation I had been working with. She said, "This is really important. It's a great thing. Let's get it going." So we formed Fist, and we went to work. We helped a lot of people, but you know, it was too big, the problems around the world. And I often thought if we could take $1 from every ticket for every fight that goes on, thrown into a foundation, everybody would get well. But the promoters and the managers, they don't want to go for that. So, um, life is great. I still work with guys. I try and help guys, direct them in the right direction, and give them the information that I learned along the road. And it's hard. It's hard because there's no trust. The people don't. There's just a lot of pain and loss. And you come out of boxing, you have no money. You're fighting with your wife. Your children don't have, proper education. There's just a number of issues that need to be addressed. And all those fans that were cheering for you when you were fighting, when you finished, they forgot about you. Now they're cheering for somebody else, and you feel all alone.
No,
And so,
it's a hard place. Some
that's the
dark
game. That's
times.
the game. But I'm sure it happens in all sports. I recognize it so much in this game because I've lived it, and saw it. And unfortunately for me, I had saved money, so I had that, and I always knew there was a rainy day coming. Most people, as an athlete, don't get that. I think it's never going to end, but it does end. And it's terrible to find out you got to pay the rent, you got to pay insurance, you got to hospitals, all those things that when you're fighting, you're an athlete, you don't think about.
No, absolutely. Gerry, I want to talk to you today about the some great heavyweights, and who better than a heavyweight great in yourself to discuss these with me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
I'm really glad you're saying that to me. I appreciate it. I had a great career. I threw I threw a rock in the motor.
mm,
In my biggest night, I knocked out Ken Norton in 54 seconds. You think I would have got a good trainer, a nutritionist, a conditioning coach? No, I started drinking and partying. I think the moment got so big, I became fearful of it from my upbringing, and I went into the darkness. And 13 months later, I fight Holmes to get stopped. And with that, it was 82. It took me 6 more years to finally put down the alcohol and get my cards in order.
how hard is it to pull yourself out of that dark hole?
Well, you obviously you have to pick yourself up, dust off your pants, and move on. It's hard because you're alone and you don't have the answers, and you don't trust the people you're supposed to trust was wrong. And so you have to go and do a lot of work and make peace with it. And you don't really want to work. You want someone to keep giving you money. That ends. So it's I've lived the whole thing except the money part. I always told put most of my money safe, and so um, I got a beautiful wife. I'm married for almost 30 years. Two beautiful kids with her. I have another son that's 35. They've never seen me drink. See, when I found out I was having my oldest son, I put down the booze and started saying, this is really important now. I have to be a father. I had no father. My father was a mean, angry man who just, you have to read my book, bro. Gentleman Gerry, a contender in ring, champion in recovery. You'll read about it. Tell your listeners to read that book.
Absolutely, I absolutely will do. Let's talk about the current crop. First of all, before I go on to the questions about the fights coming up, how do you feel you would have fared in today's crop of heavyweights in your prime?
I got to tell you something. Obviously, I think that had I got a rematch with Holmes, the first fight merited us getting a rematch. Had I gotten that, maybe I would have cleaned my act up. Maybe I would have straightened up. Maybe I could have, but I could also be dead now. So, it turned out the way it turns out. Today's crop of heavyweights, listen, they're big guys. They're way bigger than they used to be. I was 6'7". I'm going to get to the body. It's not like I watched Joshua fight, Usyk, and he tried to box him. You can't box the perfect boxer. You got to make him uncomfortable. You got to get inside. You got to push him back. You got to bang him in the rib, bang him in the rib. He'll slow down and then turn it over. But they didn't do that. I don't understand. His trainer said, well, we did everything. He did everything I asked him. Well, you asked him the wrong things. When you come back after the ninth round, you got to say, fuck the plan. Let's fight. Go get him. He didn't do it. So listen, they're still got good names. They got so many guys. Parker. You got Fury still out there. Usyk is a great fighter. Listen, the guy from Cuba. Um, what's
Frank
his
Sanchez.
name?
Frank
Who?
Sanchez.
Yeah, I like him. I want to see him get a shot. You know, uh, the heavyweight from New York or America is a tough kid. You have Parker's still available. You got Wilder. There's still really good fights out there, and there's new guys coming up. I'm excited about the heavyweight division. I'm excited about boxing. I like Bivol, Beterbiev. I like Benavidez against Bivol. There's so many great fights in the lightweight division, the welterweight division. Man, it is exciting time in this game. And I feel bad in some ways that boxing fell off ABC, CBS, and NBC here in America because those kids needed to watch it. There was a whole crop of kids that would have been Olympians and world champions had they had that information, but it went on paid TV, it went on HBO and Showtime and DAZN, and most of those kids that would have been great fighters can afford that.
Absolutely. I'm going to go a little bit off piece first of all here. You mentioned Benavidez. Benavidez versus Canelo. Is that the fight to make next for Benavidez?
I would love to see that. I don't know how Canelo likes it. I was surprised me that Benavidez. I love him, Benavidez. I love how I fight. I love Andre. I love that fight. I thought it's going to be a tough ass fight, but because if you look back, Cullum Smith gave Benavidez a little bit of trouble, right? But when you put him in there, and Andre looked so good in the first and second round, a few flurries he put on, but Benavidez is relentless. He picks up steam as the time goes on, and he works those shots. He finds the openings. After this fight, he told the press he adjusts to any style. I love that about that guy. I love that fighter. He fights. He wants Bivol if he can't get Canelo. He wants, Canelo. Charlo interesting fight there for him. He was on the same card. I don't know that Canelo's going to grab this fight right away. I think he's got to, at some point, take Benavidez. But he's getting long in the tooth, too. He's been in a lot of great fights. He's fought a lot of great champions. I think he's starting to think about an exit strategy sometime soon. He's made history. This will solidify his history by beating a guy like Benavidez. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, we saw what Bivol did to Canelo Alvarez. He schooled him like a baby, and he said, "Listen, yeah, my elbows hurt." He said, "But my head and my body is fine." But he's not gonna. He's gonna have someone like um, David Benavidez who's gonna put pressure on him and punch and punch and punch and punch, and he doesn't get tired. He picks it up. So it's exciting for boxing fans now. For me,
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan.
Absolutely. Let's go back onto these heavyweights. You mentioned Usyk. He is facing Tyson Fury in February out in Saudi Arabia.
Is
Probably
that done deal?
it's a done deal. February the 17th, I believe it is, Saudi Arabia. It's probably the best fight to make at heavyweight. Am I right?
I don't know. I saw Fury against that
In Ghana.
UFC guy Ngannou. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. Here's a guy making $10 million in his first professional fight, and Fury could not take him apart.
Was that complacency on Fury's part?
I think he read the mail. I think he listened to that. He broke he was the strongest guy on the circus speed bag. He should have. It was his moment to shine, to let Usyk think. But obviously he also, I think, struggles in some ways with some mental illness. I mean, how could you not make that 50 million? But he should have put on a better performance than that. He's too good of a fighter for that. And listen, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited, but I love the lightweights, the welterweights, the junior welterweights, the middleweights, the super middle. There's so many great boxing. It used to be the heavyweight division held up boxing. That's not true anymore. You look at that 35 to 45, 35 to 40 weight classes, man, we are stacked with great, great fighters.
Who,
And
who
they're
are your
fighting.
favourites to watch?
What's that?
Who are your favourite fighters to watch at the moment?
I mean, I love Arthur Beterbiev. I love Bivol. I love David Benavidez. I love the lightweight division. There's so many great guys in that division. And Haney's fighting Regis Prograis. I love Regis Prograis. I think he may be getting a little older now. The new generation is popping up. You got Teofimo Lopez, who's figured out, looked terrible against the Australian guy, and then he come back and babied his last opponent. So there's Ryan Garcia. There's so many great fighters in that division. You Javante Davis. You got just tons with stacked with talent. We
Absolutely.
just got to see him fight.
This is it. You mentioned this.
It was good. It was great to see that a couple of guys came out and said, "Listen, I'm struggling with depression and mental illness through all these problems this world is in, and from the pandemic, that they're addressing it." Do you ever get better? Do you ever become, when you're broken like that, try and come back? Do you ever clean it up completely? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. You mentioned there, putting these fights on, the best versus the best. One fight at heavyweight that everyone has wanted to see for the last 6, 7 years is Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. They're now going to be sharing a card in Saudi Arabia.
I think it's coming together.
Do you think that will happen next? Has it
I,
got to
I
happen
I
next?
do. I think if Wilder can get past Parker, which he should, but Parker's a good fighter. He knows that Wilder's got that right hand, and Joshua should have easy work with Wilder and Alo Valine, whatever he is, and maybe that'll happen. And I think it's their exit time. I think there's a whole new generation of guys coming up that are just waiting, waiting. I just like Jaron Ennis in the welterweight division has been waiting for so long to get that moment. He's got it now. And and so the younger group of guys are coming up that we don't really know that well, but there's a lot of good talent.
You mentioned the younger crop coming through. Go back to the sort of 80s, 70s, even the 90s. It was the heavyweight division was America. It was all in America. And then it
Mhm.
sort of come to Britain a little bit with Lennox Lewis, etc., and recently Tyson Fury. But as a young man over in America, Jared Anderson, Big Baby, they call him,
Now,
he looks a phenomenal talent.
now, and I'm going to tell you something that the heavyweight division lacked in America because they took it off of television. They took it off of CBS, NBC, ABC, which every fight, you know, you don't got guys that become fighters who are rich and educated. You get guys that are poor and hungry and angry. That's how you develop. And those kids are on free TV. We missed it, but it is what it is. And listen, UK is beautiful. Great fighters there. I love it. I was over there not too long ago on a tour with Larry Holmes, and we got to visit with a lot of guys and a lot of fun and encouraged fighters. And uh, and I always appreciate that.
You mentioned there, back in the day, it's on free TV, these young, hungry fighters.
Yeah.
You think nowadays with pay-per-view and cable, etc., do you think that's ruining the sport or ruining the access to the sport?
Well, I don't think it's ruining it, but you have to have a foundation to become a great fighter. And I think that live TV, free TV, died out because there's so much money to be made that those guys never got a look. Now they're coming in maybe a little later, and they'll have the talent hooked in to become great. And there'll always be somebody showing up. Jared Anderson, I mean, he looked great for a while, then he looked lackluster in a couple of his fights. So we have to wait and see. Bob Arum has got the program here. He gets to give the good welterweight, lightweight, heavyweight, lightweight, and then he builds 4 or 5 top guys in those divisions, and they all work together. You can't help but get better. I wished I had Bob Arum when I was a guy. I signed with 2 real estate guys, and the reason why I signed with them, I was all alone. I was 18, and I was looking, where do I go? And Howard Davis won the gold medal, and these guys signed him. So I figured I could get on all his cards and showcase myself and develop. But I wasn't with the right proper guys, and so I didn't get the experience I needed. So when I fought Holmes, I could be more prepared to win. But it is what it is, and it's a great game. And I also, like I think I told you, I could be dead now. Had
Mm.
I beat Holmes, I might be dead. Life was too fast for me. I couldn't hold on. The wheel was spinning and spinning and spinning. And I got scared. The booze numbed me out and made me feel okay. It took care of my insecurity, took care of my shyness. It made me feel, you know, attractive. It made me feel funny. It made me feel I could talk to the girls, all those things that I had no idea what to do because of my background.
You
Now
mentioned
you can tell I'm not short I'm not very short on words.
I mean, you say that obviously, I'm sure at the time when you took that loss to Larry Holmes, it was devastating for yourself. Probably the worst thing that's could
Well,
happen.
here's a story. My father told me all my life I couldn't make it. I was a failure. I was not going to amount to anything. Don't trust nobody. So in the back of my head, my whole life, I didn't have therapy. I didn't have a class to go to. I didn't have that to help me to understand that. Your father tells you that your whole life, he learned that to survive, and he passed that on to us. But when I have my father tell me that all my life, you believe it. So in the biggest moment of my life, when I knock out Ken Norton, I'm getting the shot. What do? I don't get a nutritionist, a condition coach. I start drinking. I'm afraid of the big moments. And if you don't change the oil in your car or you don't flush out the antifreeze in your car, it's not going to run right. But I thought I could handle it. just like everybody else. But you can't. It's split second timing. And you gotta have that in order to be. And I'm hoping someday I can help someone get to that level and then push them over the top. That's a gift.
I mean, I always say everything happens for a reason, Gerry. Now, with all of your life experiences, regardless of how negative they have been, they've made you the person you are today, and you can pass that on to your children. And you've mentioned hopefully fighters that you potentially train in the future.
Oh, I got a great life. I got a great life. You can't even imagine the life I have. I worked for it. I scratched and clawed at for it. I read it. All these things that there's no do-overs. There's no practice runs. This is it. This is the big one. How am I going to deal with it today?
Absolutely. Last question for me, Gerry. Just going back to today's box.
Last question. We just got on.
I mean, we can keep going if you want. I've got all night, Gerry. Don't you worry about that. Um, in terms of just comparison of today's boxing and when you was fighting, marketability. Now obviously there's a lot of social media. People have to market themselves in a certain way to sell tickets and to get onto these big platforms. Was it the same when you was fighting? Do you feel you had to sell yourself to be at the top of the pile?
Listen, I think every generation of fighters thinks that their generation was the best.
Hmm.
There was nothing, there was magic in our division and in the people and the charisma and me going up and Howard Cosell saying, "Come on, Larry, let's talk to Larry. You guys, let's talk to Gerry. We're gonna fight." And Larry Holmes pulling Cosell's wig off. And I said, "Oh my God, this is serious now." Those were great moments back in the day. And I don't it seems more like a some in some ways or some guy it's like a circus, but they are great fighters and I really admire that about them, and they're selling themselves. Javante Davis, he's not such a great man, but he can fight, and whatever his skeletons are, whatever his things are, hopefully he's working those out, and he's got a great ability. And like everything else, we break down the divisions and from the past and the present. There's a lot of great fighters from the old days, but these guys can fight too. They're very talented guys, and I only hope the fights get made.
Did you enjoy the build up to a fight, the trash talking, the selling a fight, etc.?
I was like, I had like 6 or 7 guys I grew up with and I hung with them. We went to training camps, so there was no racism. There was none of that where I came from. I was living the dream. I was eating turtle soup and lobster tail. I was in Las Vegas swimming in the pool. I was invited to all the shows. I was like, you know, um, I enjoyed them. I shouldn't say it. I didn't enjoy it in the moment. But now, where I'm at in my life, I can remember all those things. I see the moments. People send me pictures and fights and different things that I was in. I really love it. It's been so great. The opportunities that I had from watching a fight one day, thinking maybe I'll try that. I had an older brother who went to the gym, left the house when he was 15. And so when I was 17, I went to the gym and he was boxing. So I went there and this little Italian guy knocked me around the gym. I threw the gloves off. I was 15 and a half. I went home and went downstairs and hit the bag again, expecting he was going to come on me. And 3 days later, I went back to the gym. I asked if I could box that kid again, and he couldn't do that to me again. And 6 months later, I won the state championship as a middleweight, 16 years old. Um, 6'4", 160 pounds. I had 7 fights, 5 knockouts. I won the middleweight title, and they put me on the back page of all the top papers in New York, and that made me somebody. That's how I became a fighter.
How did
People
that feel?
they paid attention to me in the morning. They announced me on the air in school when I was 16. It was like amazing. I always felt like better off if I wasn't here. And that was a terrible thing that parents give their kids sometimes, but hopefully they fight out of it.
How did you
You know,
feel at the moment when you got that praise for the first time potentially in your life?
Well, I mean, listen, I was on the cover of Time Life. I was, on People magazine. I was got those things, and it's like amazing. And you don't let yourself feel it, because if you felt it, it was taken away from you. So that's what happens to us growing up. But we grow out of that when you pick yourself up and turn the page and get on with your life. And that's the gift about us that, you know, I'm never going to be this age again. Had a health scare. And I thought, he said, what? He said, cancer. I said, what'd you say? And I thought, wow, I was Superman all my life. Now they tell me this. So I had a little prostate problem. I got 5 radiation shots. It went away. I'm living my life. I feel I experience more. I put myself out there more. I speak a lot, tell my story. Told you I have a book out there. And, I have a great family. Man, it don't get no better than this. And I get to go watch the great fights and talk to guys like you who make sense. Who's got it better than me? I don't know.
Do you look back on everything that's happened to you in your life and have any regrets, or would you change anything?
Of course I would. I wished I had given it 100% fighting Larry Holmes. And I wish I could have. I mean, I had a great trainer, but I was shut down. There was a wall between me and everybody. I couldn't let you in. I couldn't let you in for you'd hurt me, right? I don't even know if you understand what I'm saying, but it was a hard thing to break through. And I had 2 managers that couldn't stand each other. I couldn't trust them. It's just I couldn't believe you tell me, what you told me. I just didn't have that in my deck. And so I did the best I could. And I think that I sabotaged myself in the Holmes fight because if I failed by myself, my father was right. But that wasn't the story. I was wrong for thinking that way. Certain point in your life, you got to get up and say, well, okay, that's not real. I need to get on with my life. And unfortunately, it was a little bit too late for me. But, you know, like I said, right now, doing a whole new kitchen over. I got a great family. I have great friends. I was on the phone, yesterday with 20 people. I told them all I love them because I do. Who can do that?
Mhm.
So that's my story, and I'd love to get my hands on you one of these days, bro.
I'll be too quick for you, Jerry.
Too quick for me. I cut the ring down from 20 to 10, then to 5, and then where you going?
I believe you.
So
Jerry,
anyway, the fight division, the fight heavyweight division is great. That's a great fight going on over there. It's unbelievable, but all fights, the big fights are being drawn over there. So we can't see them here in America. You will at some point not be able to see them where you're from. And because they're going to Saudi Arabia, they're going to those places because they're playing astronomical. Those people are throwing away millions of dollars like it's a dollar. You know what I mean? I wish I was fighting now.
I bet. Do you feel that, in terms of the money side of things with Saudi Arabia, could greed potentially ruin the sport for your average Joe? The punters who go out to watch the fights. Like you mentioned there, you might not be able to go out to America and see it again, or out to the UK to go to a stadium fight because it will all be over there. And then also the expectation then comes with, well, actually, in my last fight, I earned $10 million. So I expect to earn that again now. So the fights will continue to return to Saudi.
Think it's short term. I think these guys don't get that many opportunities, so you grab it when you can, and then you hold on to it as best you can. I think that they're getting a great opportunity, and Saudi Arabia is doing great for those guys. It's beautiful to put those fights on those that the stadiums they're building over there, all those things. But I think it's all short term for the enjoyment of those people there to say they're putting it on in their home, and God bless those guys for making that money. Save it, save it. you know, so that's the story. God bless. I made big paydays in my life, because I was lucky, and I could fight a little bit, and I could talk. A lot of guys can't do that too much. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be personable. You gotta let the people know who you are, what's going on for you. And I think that I was the guy who was like the sanitation worker. I was the guy like the carpenter. I was a regular Joe. So when I ran down the street, the garbage trucks were beeping horns at me, telling me, "Cooney, let's go, let's go." I was one of those guys, and that was great feeling for me too. And when I lost, I felt like I let them down a little bit. That didn't feel so good. But I don't know. I hope we didn't drift away too much to what you wanted to talk about.
No, no, not at all. It's been perfect. It's been good to speak to you, Jerry. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. I hear you hopefully doing another UK tour next year. So fingers crossed I'll come out and see you in person. But I'm not sure I'll bring the
You
glove.
better. You don't need the gloves, bro. We don't need gloves. Listen, send this to me. You have my email, right?
Yes,
Whatever you're going to put on, send it to me. I want to see it.
I will do. I'll send it over to
And then
you.
the next time when we go on, you'll have one black eye. Which one would you like, the right or the left?
I'll let you decide which one you catch
Oh, I
first.
like that. Oh, bro. Hey, listen, peace, baby. Nice to see you. All right, love you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you for coming on with me. All right,
No worries at all. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
see you, brother. Bye.
Bye.